I know I asked you about the birth rate, but what about the abortion rate?
What's the correlation between stress and being healthy?
Do you feel it's hard to get your message across? Do you think race has anything to play with that?
When did that shift happen that most births happening outside the island?
Was it easy to open up your clinic coming back?
Well, I can tell you the basics. The basics were when I moved to St. Martin.
Welcome on everybody, back again with another episode of Talk. Today we have a special episode for you. But before I start the episode, I want to thank everybody for watching. That's for sure. And also I want to tell everyone to subscribe to the channel, because when you subscribe to the channel, then we know you love the content and it encourages us to continue providing you with the content. Today we are sitting down with Dr. Dorette Courtar, but you will be the person to better explain how you prefer us to refer to you in this podcast right now.
Well, good day. Thank you for being here, for the invitation. Well, whatever you feel comfortable with. I mean, most people call me Doc.
Okay.
Yeah. But I must say, it's nice to hear your name once in a while. So,
Yeah, Dorette.
I was on the internet looking up different things, and you know, when you look up different things, you see a biography of the person, and I just want to make sure and confirm, because we younger. You was born here on Statia.
Mm-hmm. I was born here.
And what was the experience like growing up on Statia?
You know, people used to ask me that question a lot. How was Stacia? Because when I showed them Stacia on a map, they were like, oh my God, a place like this exists, especially with such a small population. I lived here until I was 12. So honestly, for me, I describe it as a butterfly in a field. No notion of danger, just living life. Everything was taken care of. I mean, it was living like in a paradise. You know, no stress, no worries. Your parents took care of everything. We used to wander on the streets. There was no worry about car accident. So life was good, easy. There was a sense of harmony. We're talking about in the 70s without me revealing too much. And it was like a big family on the island. That's how I experienced it. And I look back with a nice feeling. So that was one of the things that really always motivated me to come back to Statia.
You speak about that it was really family oriented. Well, how about your family? From what household did you come from?
Oh, I come from a large family. My father was, my mother's from St. Kitts, and she moved here when she was a young girl for work. I didn't know my maternal grandparents. And my father, he was born on Statia. His father was a tough cookie, so far I understood. But my father as well was a tough cookie. So he grew up in a household where the men had to really work hard.
Yeah.
And in our family, my parents had I would say a football club.
A football club.
Yeah, about 12 kids. I mean, back in those days, families were large. We were not even the largest family on the island. And I'm not even talking about what we refer to as outside children or half siblings.
Yeah.
But there were quite some large families on the island. But it was like... like a business, actually. The whole family took part. I remember when we got our first phone, and we had to learn how to answer the phone in the house. So we were like, when the phone rang, it was like, hello, Courtar's residence. How can I help you? So as kids, we already were trained to answer the phone in that way. And if you would like to leave a message. Because my father was a business person. He was out and about a lot. So everybody partake in that business. Yeah.
So you can say, what was the roles? Because you say you were like a football field, not football field,
Club in the size, in the size, yeah.
Yeah. Did you all have like roles?
Well, my mom was very strict. And I think when you have so many kids, you have to be. Otherwise, you wouldn't get it organized.
Yeah.
Growing up, I used to complain and say, why we can't be like other kids can do what we want,
Yeah.
And, but, it was, and I don't know, I really don't know how it was in other households because I always thought that every house was like our house. So we got up early. We started the day with, my father used to wake us up and push a slice of orange in our mouth. That's how we woke up. And then everybody had to hit down their knees and pray to start the day. At a certain point, we had to make up our own beds. Like, I can imagine with so many kids, my mom just couldn't have everybody out to school and do all of that. But by the time we left house to go to school, the house had to be clean. So everybody had to take part in the dishes, cleaning the house, making our beds, helping with the washing. There was a lot of washing.
Yeah.
Because I grew up in the days where my mom was very old-fashioned. So she didn't use any Pampers. We used diapers, which had to be soaked and cooked and bleached and starched and ironed and
that was a
folded
process
in a specific way. Yeah, but everybody had nice bottoms at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah. But compared to now, like you say, you all used to use diapers. Now it's like
Pampers.
disposable. And yeah. But before I go into that, why did you leave at 12 years old?
Well, first of all, I always wanted to leave because I thought, even as a young child, I thought Stacia was very small. I had, I don't know, I dreamt of doing something different. And I remember once I was 6 years old, I was sitting in the hospital and there was a dentist and we were all scared of the dentist. And the dentist had it was a Dutch dentist, he had really large yellow teeth. I remember that. And the kids were really scared of this dentist. But he didn't really do anything to make them feel comfortable. And I remember sitting there watching this and I said, when I grow up, I'm going to become a doctor and do it different.
Okay.
So I always thought that empathy is really important in making people feel comfortable because that's where you already start to healing, I would say. Yeah. So I had to leave because at the time when I grew up on Statia, there was only, I think, 2 secondary schools. So I went to the Bethel kindergarten school, I think it was at the time. And then after that, I went to the Governor de Graaf School, which was where the old part of the Gwendolyn Van Putten School is now. And at the time, there was only the Golden Rock School still existing as a primary school. And there was no secondary, no higher education.
Why the transition? Was it that you switched school or is it that to a certain, then you said you only had a kindergarten?
There was no choice. There were only 2.
Okay.
So I went to kindergarten at the Bethel School and then we went to the government. Well, we were not Catholics. I think at that time we called it a Catholic school. The Golden Rock School, we called it a Catholic school.
Yes,
and there were nuns and we were not Catholics, so we went to the public school.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I think it was like an automatism.
And where did you? No, first before I go to that, what was the experience like leaving the island because you had to leave at a very young age?
12 years old.
Yeah. What was that?
Yeah,
like?
I mean, it was normal because everyone who wanted to pursue an education had to leave. So it was something that my mom prepared us for at a young, but she didn't take it light. I remember when my older sisters were leaving, she would sit in the car and cry. And then her good friend, who had also a lot of kids, would say, well, Edith, you can't keep them all. You have to let them go at a certain point. And I knew my time would come one day, that dreaded moment of leaving home, because you heard so many awful stories. So, it was a little bit excitement, but on the other hand, I was excited to leave because I really wanted to study.
Yeah.
I really, really wanted to study. I didn't know at the time what I wanted to become, but I really wanted to study for sure.
I was going to ask that.
Yeah.
From young, where you wanted to become, but where did you ultimately go after Stacia?
When I left here, well, I knew I wanted to become a doctor. I knew already from a
6,
child.
you said.
I knew I wanted, but I didn't know what type of doctor. But I thought a doctor was a doctor and that's it. But I went to Aruba, and I stayed there for 4 years. I did Mavo, and then I went to Curacao and did the Havo and Vivio.
Okay.
So I spent 4 years on Aruba and 4 years on Curacao. And then from there, I went to the Netherlands. And the nice thing about when I was in Curacao, we had preparations on which university to choose. And because of the high rate of dropouts, I bumped into Maastricht, which I liked very much. It reminded me of Statia because it was like an old city,
Yeah.
a lot of old buildings, and somehow it reminded me of Statia. And I said, this is the perfect place. And it was small. It was a young university. I think the time I went there, they were only just 15 years old. And they introduced a complete different learning system, which is now being used in the whole of the Netherlands.
Yeah.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
Something to be proud of.
Yeah, I liked it I really enjoyed it very much.
Yeah.
If I could just lift it up and bring it with me, I would have done so.
Yeah.
How were you to adaptations? Because you say you moved from Aruba to Curacao and then to the Netherlands.
You mean like adapting to a new situation?
Yeah.
I really didn't pay too much mind. I was more focused on meeting my goals actually.
Okay.
So I saw them as small hazards, like minor discomforts.
Yeah.
I didn't like living in other people's houses. That's one thing for sure. You didn't have the comfort that you had at home. I mean, my mom really went out. She was a perfect housewife. I can tell you that.
Yeah.
I used to think to myself, when I grew up, I'm going to marry a woman just like my mom. Because she did everything so...
She was really organized.
Yeah, she was really organized, clean. She was a good cook. The house was like in a hotel.
Yeah.
I mean, my mom would not just throw our rice on the plate. She would, with all those kids, she would put it in a form and put it on the plate and make our own cake.
Yeah.
Sew our clothes, did our hair every morning. Not this thing of once a week you get in your hair done. No, every morning we had to comb our hair and looking bright and neat to go to school. So
She used to comb you all here, or you all like okay?
she used to do our hair, yeah.
Oh wow! I can't imagine the time you all had to wake up.
Yeah, I mean, and then the weekends, so if you to church, you used to press our hair as well.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, how many girls, how many boys?
That's a good thing. More girls than boys for sure.
Okay.
I think 7-5
Okay.
Wow.
That's a lot of
Every morning.
every morning. Yeah,
wow.
Yeah.
yeah, every morning.
And then you see you in the Netherlands, and I think I just want to make sure 100% right. In 1999, you became an assistant doctor.
No, in 1990, I went to medical school,
Okay.
and that completed in 1997. And then I went to Amsterdam. I worked there in the university hospital doing some research. But actually, I wanted to stay in Maastricht because I liked it very much. So the professor organized a little thing for me to come back, which was not everybody was happy about. But I went back to Maastricht at the end of the day to study gynecology. But the condition was that I wouldn't keep them up late at night with my inexperience. So I had to go in between to another hospital to learn to do deliveries before I can start.
Yeah.
When did you know that, okay, I wanted to be a
Gynecologist.
A gynecologist?
Yeah.
From the second year of medical school when I got my first female topic.
From the second year of...
Yeah, in the second year of medical school. So medical school is 6 years. And in Maastricht, we did 4 years of theoretical and some small rotations and apprenticeship in the hospitals.
Yeah.
And after 4 years, you do 2 years rotation, all the different subjects. But you get introduced in the first 4 years already with different topics. And in the second year, I was introduced to gynecology, and that's it.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
You fell in love with
I
it.
knew it.
Why did you choose it?
Well, I was always, I had a question asked on my application for gynecology.
Yeah.
And it came out wrong at the moment because I said like this because I like women. And, and the doctor was like, oh. But I was always interested in female health. Being a woman myself, I was always interested in female health and also the well-being of women in the society.
Yeah.
Growing up on a small island where I was always irritated that the woman always had to be inside a house, cooking the food, washing the dishes. And
Yeah.
my brothers used to tease me when they knew that I didn't like that. I said, well, when they wanted to irritate me, they said, go wash some dishes. But I was always interested to do things around women, and later on it expanded to health in general, women and children.
Yeah.
But I'm interested in men's health as well. This is important.
What do they call? I'm not going into that direction, but I want to know. We have gynecologists, but what do they call the man?
The urologist.
Urologist. Okay. Okay.
Because
that's not so common.
So yeah, I don't hear that one so much.
well, we have two, Mr. Martin. And a urologist, the urogenital system, he deals with the bladder, the urinary tract,
Yeah.
and the male genitals. But also for the urinary tract and for women as well. And they're overlapped. He treats male and female.
Okay. Okay.
But he's more
But you
specialized
don't really
in
hear it so
prostate.
much.
Yeah,
Yeah.
unfortunately, there's a lot of gynecology issues on the island, but I'm sure it's just as much
Yeah.
male issues. And it's sad that you say that, but it's a fact because men are very well underrepresented when it comes down to healthcare in the
Yeah.
Caribbean. And that's why we also have a high rate of prostate cancer because we don't screen.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because you have all of those for women, going to your scan, your screen and all of that, but you don't really see promotion or anything regarding
Well,
the male.
the last year since I'm on the island, there has been some campaigns. I know the Queen Beatrix Medical Center was setting up some campaigns on prostate screening. St. Martin Medical Center was also doing it.
I saw
Yeah.
that. Yeah. Yeah.
But not enough. There's not enough awareness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How long ultimately you to stay in the Netherlands?
I stayed in the Netherlands for 16 years and I went to Germany.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but in total, I was in Germany only for 4 years. But in total, I spent 20 years in Europe, yeah.
And how long did it take for your study?
Well, for gynecology, it's 12 years. So for a medical doctor, it's 6 years. And specialization is 6 years. But the thing is, there are limited space on a specialization, so you don't get into training right away.
Yeah.
So in my case, I was lucky, but I had to do a year in between to learn how to do a delivery, which you should learn that during training. But
Okay.
a lot of specialists like it the easy way out.
How about, ik wil me to a question. How was the first delivery that you had to do?
I almost fainted.
Wow.
Where was it?
This was in Roermond. Yeah.
Where is that?
Roermond is a town between Maastricht and Eindhoven, I would say.
Oh, okay, in Holland.
It's one of
Okay.
the intercities.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I worked there for a year to learn how to deal with women before I went into training.
Yeah.
And this woman, she just had a large baby, so it took a while to come out.
Yeah.
And it was not responding well when it came out, so my knees just turned to water.
Wow.
Luckily, there was a wall behind me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That is
How
a
did
nice.
you eventually get accustomed to it? How long did it take for you to get confident in it?
Well, I'll tell you what. When I went to work there, I had no clue. I didn't do a delivery before. And they told me they would train me for 2 weeks. They'll have somebody walking with me for 2 weeks. And then to get into it. So the first day on the job, the professor came over and said like this, okay, we here like for people to jump into it right away. So I'm going to go to the outpatient and do my clinic and I'm going to leave you here.
Wow.
Yeah, so it was actually C1, do one and teach
Yeah.
one.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you had to go through that too. I mean, that was the goal. So I think you had to
I'm
go.
happy I went through with it. Yeah, because I really enjoy what I do. It's not always the nice part. I mean, everybody thinks, gynecologist, delivery, and I have a lot of men here on stage thinking, I wish I had your job.
Yeah.
So these are the kind of comments you will get. But it has It has the good, the bad, and the ugly as well in this job. Yeah, or like
Yeah.
every other medical job.
Yeah.
Yeah. What would you say is what was a most challenging moment for you?
In my profession,
Yeah.
dealing with people, not with the patients, but the whole surrounding around it. I always thought, and probably just because you call it naive, I always thought if everybody's in training, there's no need for competition. But some people will find always a reason to compete. But I never competed with people.
Yeah.
My mother always said, you just have to set your goals and work toward it. And I was always trying to dance through the crowd and avoid bumping into people so I can get closer to my goal as fast as possible and don't waste time arguing nonsense. So competition was never in my. I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing, but I don't compete with
Yeah.
people. Yeah, I compete with myself.
Yeah. But it does make it more challenging.
Yeah, that's the downside of the job, but I think that's with every profession. The downside having to deal with people's frustration or insecurities, jealousy, laziness. There's a lot of people in doing jobs who want position but don't want to put in the work.
Yeah.
So these are the things that irritate me.
Yeah.
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 Did you always know that but you say you always know you wanted to come back, but you ever had any second doubts because you say it was in Netherlands for in Europe
12
for
years?
20 years.
Oh yeah.
Did you ever second
Doubts
guess
about coming back?
though? Yeah.
No.
Oh, so you didn't know you wanted to return.
Oh, yes, for sure.
Okay.
The only thing I wanted to do before coming back, I wanted to live in France for 5 years. Yeah, I wanted to learn French because that was the only part of the Caribbean that I didn't explore. The French-speaking part.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I thought if I go to France, live there, work there, learn the language, learn the culture, understand everything, then I more or less had everything because I speak Spanish, English, Dutch, Papiamento a little bit. I understand it, but I don't speak it so fluent. But I was thinking that would be ideal to come back, and then there's no limitations where you can work in the region, because working on one small island is sometimes challenging. Let me put it like that.
Was it easy to open up your clinic coming back?
Here?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was easy. It was too easy, actually, which got for me a little bit scary.
Was it the intention to have your own clinic or?
No, that was a plan B. Plan A was to come here and apply for a job, but it was very clear from the beginning that it was not intended. The system didn't intend to have specialists on this island. So I got a pushback from even before I landed. So I was, okay, this is going to take longer than I expected. So I need to come up with something else. But I did bear in mind that could happen on the way here.
Yeah.
So I was prepared.
So that was your plan B.
Yeah.
So take me through the plan B.
Now the plan B was, and it's not even fully in execution. The plan B was to open the clinic. And actually my dream was to have a center, a birthing center for mother and children, in collaboration with the healthcare system, of course. But you can have your dreams and aspirations, but if you work within a system that has other plans beyond you, then you just have to take it the way it comes.
What's the idea of the birthing center?
Well, I wanted, my idea was to have a place where mothers and children, which I do consider the vulnerable group in the society, where they can come to get healthcare, professional care, not only with delivery and pregnancy, but women's health in general. And I think women take care of the society at the end of the day. When I look here in Stacia, top jobs are, and no offense against men, but women are sitting in the most powerful positions on this island.
Yeah.
And at the same time, they're caretakers, mothers, everything. And we have to be tough as well.
Yeah.
You know, when I was growing up, the woman was in the house and delegated everything from the home. But now you have to make sure you do it from home, but also out there as well.
Yeah.
So you have to get up in the morning, leave the house, take care of your kids, get them ready for school, take care of your husband, take care of your house, go to the job,
Yeah.
perform,
Yeah.
don't be a nag, come home in a good mood, be ready for your husband, all this
Yeah.
expectation.
Yeah.
It's a lot that's been put on women, and I think they need a little bit more acknowledgement for the things that they do. And most men, when they come home, they don't have to worry about taking care of the kids. Most men. I'm not saying all men, but
Yeah.
most men, it's like an automatism that the woman is going to do that.
I'm glad you brought up this topic, especially about the woman on the island and so forth. But I want to go back to the birthing center because I really see like there is a need for that. Because yes, like you say, right now you just you find out you get pregnant, go and do your regular checks. But then what about the aftercare?
Well, first of all, there's a lot going on. There's a lot of talks about whether this island is equipped for having deliveries, yes or no. So one of the things that is really important is safety. We have a lot of high-risk pregnancies on the island. And that has to do with we have, generally speaking, a lot of chronic illnesses on the island as well. So mothers included as well in that problem. There's a lot of investment and work being done from all sides, locally and abroad, to improve the healthcare on the island. And it's a slow process because we're lacking everything. I always, when I'm in a conversation with people in Europe and they ask, do you need anything? And I say, we don't need more papers, we need people. We need help, we need education, we need help. Because even though we're a small island, you tend to try to do all the things that you do in a big country with limited people, limited staffing, limited education and resources.
Then you turn out to be a burnout as well.
So you have to get the work done. So a lot of things has to be taken into consideration when we talk about a birthing center. I think it is possible, but it's a lot of investment, and everything nowadays is calculated with costs and efficiency. So they will have to do a business case on that if people will consider it.
Has there been a research on that?
No, it's that was a dream of mine, but I don't see that for now becoming a reality because we have so many high risk pregnancies, like I was saying, and most of these people deliver off the island.
Yeah.
So the rest that is left is a very small number.
Okay.
Would you then say that, because I know in the past, majority of the births used to be, I was born here on the island. When did that shift happen that most births happening outside the island?
I think after 10-10-10. I mean, I wasn't here then, but I think after 10-10-10, the way we look at healthcare has changed. And the conditions have changed as well. We needed very much to improve the level of healthcare on the island, and certain risks were not acceptable anymore. So that's the bottom line.
Yeah, I like that you say certain risks were not acceptable because maybe we used to wonder like, okay, it always used to happen. Why they stop it?
Mm-hmm.
You want to say something?
No, I know if you want.
No, you could go ahead.
What is considered a high risk pregnancy?
Okay, let's talk about normal risk. Normal risk is you're healthy, you have no chronic diseases, you have a normal and a healthy weight, and you have no events in your pregnancy. The chances that you have a abnormal delivery is quite small. But the most risks are in the pregnancies, not so much in the delivery. Right now, there's a lot of emphasis putting on the delivery, but the pregnancy is the risk factor. Being pregnant alone, your body has to function on a high level. My professor used to say it as a top sporter. Your body changes, you produce a lot more volume, your heart beats a lot faster and pump a lot more blood. And your kidneys, everything functions a lot on a higher standard, and that's why they compared it to top sport. Okay. So imagine doing top sport when you have high blood pressure, overweight, malnutrition, diabetes, imagine doing top sport under those conditions. That's a lot of strain on a system. So you're very likely to develop complications. So a lot of the work that we do is going into monitoring and testing and ensuring that these things and recognizing on time that your system don't break down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you mentioned the regular risk, but what are the high risk?
Well, the high risks are a result of all these problems: diabetes in the pregnancy, hypertension in the pregnancy. It is a disease what is called preeclampsia, where you get a hypertensive crisis. We have to monitor for those diseases as well. But being overweight already puts you in a high risk because you have a higher risk of getting a lot of chronic diseases, which you were able to manage outside of pregnancy. But on top of that, with the pregnancy, things become a little bit more complicated.
Yeah.
So if you were doing fine before, like I said, if your system was able to manage itself, a pregnancy is an extra load on top. So you have the tendency that it will break down during the pregnancy. So the mother gets complications, and some of these complications can affect the baby as well.
Yeah.
Would you say is then you have a kind of like a lifestyle type of issue on the island where I guess diet and things are concerned?
Yeah, I mean, we already know the facts that we have in the BES Islands a high rate of chronic diseases. We have a high rate of 90% of the population is overweight or obese. That's a high number.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And what is the cause of that?
Our lifestyle. Our lifestyle is definitely the cause. And some people will say, yeah, my family is big, but that's like a minimum amount of people. That doesn't explain the amount of obesity we have in the island. I mean, not hitting on any shops, but when you walk into certain shops, it's only sweet.
Yeah.
And people are addicted to sugar. I mean, they must have sugar in something. Even natural juices, they will put sugar in it.
But don't you think it's more about what they can financially afford? Or not so?
Not always. Because I think there's a lot of different things could be the reason. I think lack of education. There was not, in the past, we had no fast food on the island, so it was not an issue. We didn't have to think about what we ate. It was always good. And also, even though the people ate a lot of starch, they were working a lot more in the fields, doing a lot of plantation. So you burned it in a different way. And now we're sitting most of the time in offices and eating like we ate
That is true.
30, 40, 50 years ago.
That is so true.
So it's just too much. And we have never learned to portion control. We never, actually, there's not even any, and now I see it happening in schools that they teach about health awareness.
Yeah.
But most of the time it's focused on not getting pregnant. And recently I see they started on nutrition as well. But I think it's because people just don't know. And then, like someone told me, we like our mouth. People here like to eat.
Yeah.
And we haven't been really confronted with the consequences of the way we live. And it's starting to show now.
Yeah.
You know, people here live longer than in Europe.
Yeah?
Yeah.
People here.
The older generation. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but
so that's something positive.
Well, I'm afraid that's going to change soon. And we're talking about the older generation.
Yeah.
Our grandparents and our parents already have the effect of the globalization and the import of unhealthy foods.
Yeah. I know we can go really deep into this, but like you say, now many persons are in the office. What happened to the men? Like, okay, they used to be more in the field, maybe, doing more agriculture. But do you think people are not so keen into doing that and more into, okay, it's easier to get money this way instead of going into taking a time out? Because, that takes time.
Yeah. Well, there has been a cultural shift for sure. It is not financially feasible anymore to be a full-time farmer. That's the reality.
Yeah.
And when I speak with farmers and I hear about their struggles, You will so most people are more like hobby farmers. You don't
Right.
have many professional farming on the island.
Yeah.
And then you have to be lucky with the circumstances that your crop is not being destroyed. So the majority of people have I will call it a regular job.
Yeah.
And then if they farm on the side
Yeah.
as a little extra.
I think that has an effect on growing your own produce. Like how you said back then, you all used to eat more fresh stuff. You really used to import. So I think that really have an effect as well.
Well, I think it's important to realize that a lot of, I don't know about men because I only speak with women, but a lot of women have 2-3 jobs. Yeah.
Yeah. So
So-
there's a timing for that as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
I only spoke about the men. Yeah. But
But a lot of women have 2-3 jobs and they're juggling one job to the next. So just imagine you go to job number 1, you don't have time to go home to cook for your kids.
Yeah.
why do they have 2 and 3 jobs? Why do you think?
Well, I don't need 2 and 3 jobs. But I think a lot of people have low income and the island has become so expensive. So to make ends meet, you have to have multiple jobs, especially if you have kids or if you're a single parent.
Yeah. Yeah.
How important is, like, what's the correlation between stress and being healthy? Because I don't have stress to have a big impact on your health also, does it?
Well, as a gynecologist, I can assure you it does. When women are stressed, their whole hormone system goes off track. So stress is a big factor. I mean, stress is the reason for not only stress, but stress and a bad lifestyle is the reason for heart attacks. Stress is a reason for gaining the weight around your waistline. Stress is a reason for not sleeping, and not sleeping is bad for your hormone. I mean, it impacts your whole system. So stress is there's a simple ways how you can get rid of stress by just walking. Walking de-stresses you.
Yeah.
And even if you don't have money to do expensive gymming, just by taking a walk after the job to release that stress as well, or doing some kind of a form of sport, it really switches the mode and bring you into a good mood
It is true.
when you go home. And
Yeah.
because otherwise you take all that burden from the day into the house
Yeah.
and your whole night. I mean, a lot of people don't even like their jobs. Let's
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you're walking around with stress, they're being either mobbed or bullied or whatever.
Yeah.
And then you take that home as well and you spoil your evening as well.
Yeah.
So you can do some simple things to de-stress yourself that at least the evening is enjoyable.
Yeah.
And you sleep also better.
Yeah. What is the birth rate on Stacia?
Right now?
Yeah.
Oh, very low. I think somewhere between 6 and 10 deliveries a year.
Oh,
Yeah.
Solo?
Yeah, it's very low.
wow.
Yeah. Even though during COVID we had 38 deliveries, you know, when they stopped the healthcare, when they stopped care during COVID, everybody delivered on the island more or less, the medium to low risk. Oh, we were probably very productive that year, but there were a lot of deliveries that year. Yeah.
Oh, yes. Between 20 and 2021? Yeah. Yeah. When we, yeah.
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 Yeah. So there was something in the air.
Yeah.
Yeah, but right now, I'll tell you what. It's understandable that the birth rate dropped. And there are indeed some risks that are not acceptable anymore. People used to say, well, in the past, every baby used to deliver here. Well, we were also lucky. And the goal right now is to increase the medical standard up to European level. That's going to take some time, of course.
Yeah.
But there are already processes in place which are starting to improve. So there's going to be a lot of changes for everyone. But I think on the long term, there's going to be changes for the better.
Yeah.
And because you said the birth rate lower, is it a good thing or a bad thing?
For the population.
No, for the population, not. What one of my concerns is babies being born outside Statia. Okay, now we have this. I just recently found out we have this best child thing. So if you're from Statia and your child is born outside Statia, you're still from Statia, even though you have born in wherever in your passport. If you've been flown out to St. Martin, for example, during delivery,
Then it's considered.
yeah, that's considered a Statia child. I don't know if that's going to last forever because in 20 years from now, I hope that law still exists.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because that law was made recently and, laws do change.
Yeah.
But for example, if you were not born on the island and you came here as a child and you're being flown out for a delivery, that baby's parents is not from Statia. So the question is that baby is going to be a Statia child.
So how do they distinguish that too? Yeah.
Well, they don't. Right now, there's no protection mechanism to cover for that. So that's something that they're looking into. I don't know how effective they are right now, but that is going to be an issue.
Yeah.
So that's, I think, one of the main points of delivering outside Statia.
Do you remember a time that or a year that you had a lot of deliveries? Mm-hmm. Was there a time like that?
Yeah, COVID.
Yeah. Wow.
During that year. Well, it's not because...
In your whole career?
Oh, in my career?
Yes.
Oh, no. When I worked in Germany, it was like we had about almost 4,000 deliveries a year. Yeah. But that was too much. That was really stressful. I mean, I used to fall asleep on the way home. Sometimes I used to fall asleep and miss my stop with the train.
What?
So you physically did almost 4,000 deliveries?
No. Where she
I
worked?
But sometimes I will have like up to
Over
20 deliveries in a day. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Is there a capacity for that on Statia?
What, 20 deliveries in a day?
No, the amount of deliveries that someone can handle.
No, I'll tell you what. Some people have a lot of complications and they really need to deliver in a special center.
Yeah.
And the population is way too small to cater for these things. So at the end of the day, you will have to look at the average and what is making sense. Because if you put a lot of the care in medical, especially in specialized areas, is very expensive. And you have to, at a certain point, ask yourself the question if it makes sense to spend all that funding into a small group while the majority of the population is still need.
Yeah.
And having worked in Europe for a long time, I understand where the ministry is coming from. I understand their view of how to deal with healthcare, but it just doesn't work for you.
Yeah.
And what we need here is people who are willing to see that it's not working and who care about the people enough to say, you know what, we've been trying this since 10, and look at where we are today. I'm not impressed, honestly speaking.
Yeah.
But it is what it is. And we have to now focus on how can we improve the situation. I think we need to do a lot better when it comes down to prevention, because that's a lot to gain in that field.
Yeah.
But also the way things are done here is for certain. It has a history as well. It's not a copy paste. I always refer to one professor I had. His name was Louis Peters de Maastricht. He said it's not a cookbook medicine. You just can't copy paste and say, okay, it works for this and must work for every situation is different. And I think being on a small island with different dynamics, different genetics as well, and that's why we have different people. We need different approach.
Do you feel it's hard to get your message across?
Yes, because I'm a small voice in a big sea of opinions, and I understand as well. If you're sitting in The Hague and you have like some small islands in the Caribbean Sea, how are you going to provide health care for 3,000 people on one island and 1,500 people on another island, and everything else around you is not Dutch? and you want to do it Dutch.
Yeah.
So that becomes a challenge. And also, especially if you have the same people who are calling the shots, how much money is going to spend, is more or less, even though they say it's independent, it's more or less the same people who decides what gets treated and what gets not treated. And so, yeah, it's one big organism that takes care of everything, and that for me is not a good system.
I can understand how difficult that might be because there are not so many medical experts. I think when you're speaking from a background of your station, you want the best for your community, and they are outsiders, so they don't understand it to your level. So I think that makes it more difficult as well for you.
Well, at the end of the day, numbers count. So it's not so much, of course, it's also about people, but at the end of the day, it's about money. So we have to be realistic about that as well. So they're not going to spend a lot of money on a small amount of people, especially if you want to talk about average care, comparable to Europe. After working in Europe for 20 years, I can tell you not all is good. If we can just pick out the good stuff and leave the bad behind, but it seems like it all goes together.
Yeah.
So that could be detrimental for us because we're such a small community. And I hope decision makers realize that you can afford some hiccups in a big population.
Yeah.
But in a small population, the impact is a lot bigger.
Is there something you see can be improved? Yes, I understand that money and finances could be an issue. But do you think that there's something the community, yes, we can work on right now in the health?
I don't think there's something we can do right now to have the effect now. We can do a lot to have the effect for the future. I think what you can cover now is education. We need a lot more health awareness.
Yeah.
That's what we need. We need people to start taking care of themselves better. The tendency is for people to think that I can do what I want, live how I want, and the doctor is going to deal with it. That's not going to happen. If that's your life philosophy, you're gonna lose your life carelessly.
Yeah.
Because everybody should be aware that your health is your own responsibility.
That is true.
Yeah, it's just like your finances are your responsibility. The bank is not your parent is not going to safeguard how you're spending. It's all up to yourself. And with the health, it's just the same thing.
Yeah. It's like, we know what we have to do, but do we take the action to actually do it?
Well, people don't like to come out of their comfort zone.
Yeah.
It's very comfortable to know that, we have a lot of issues in this, like everywhere else. But I think being a small society, the impact is... you see it trickles down to a lot of different areas.
Yeah.
So if you're stressed out and depressed, some people have this, I don't know it, but people do have the tendency to eat when they're depressed.
Yeah.
I'm a person, I don't want to eat. I just don't want to see people, don't want to talk, leave me alone. But some people find comfort in food.
So you go quiet?
I go quiet.
Okay.
Yeah. Or I retract myself. But some people will find comfort in food, others in drugs, in alcohol. But some people also in aggression. So we need to come to a point where we feel comfortable and mentioning these things and talking about it, and try to somehow find a way to heal ourselves, because the tendency is to lay back and let somebody else do it for us. And that is not going... People, that is not going to happen.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen.
If anytime you feel like you want to have a direct message, you can look into the camera here.
Oh,
yes.
So it's not going to happen. You do really need to take care of yourself, and nobody else is going to do it for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's important for people to realize.
So one thing I know is that many people does really praise you and really have trust in you to go by Dorette. They feel so comfortable because they know that when they go to you, they feel like their business is not going to go on the road. And how do you treat that confidentiality with your clients? The patients, I should say.
Well, it's part of the job, in the sense that when you like what you do, you want to do it in the best of your ability. I understand the sensitivity in a small society. I mean, everybody knows, everybody's connected to somebody in some sense. So that makes it even more important to be careful with who you share information with, because it can be damaging to some people.
Yeah.
And I mean, really, I've seen situations where, not on this island, but when I worked in other places, I've seen situations where leakage of information almost cost someone their life. So I take it very serious. But for me, it's not difficult anymore because I've been doing it so long, and probably because I worked in a large cities where nobody knows anybody,
Yeah.
and nobody's interested in anybody's business.
Yeah.
And it's just gossip anyway. I mean,
Yeah.
I mean,
I guess it depends on who you are as well as a
Yeah.
person.
You know, my life is already, there's so much going on. I don't know where I'll find time
To do
to
that.
gossip about
Yeah.
other people.
Well, maybe to your other gynecologist, support
but
system, and
but you know, what can I possibly tell them that is of interest?
Yeah.
Except if it's an interesting case.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and that's what we used to do. Like if I see something that is very rare, I only know it from textbook. Even here, I will call an old colleague in the Netherlands
that's nice. Yeah.
and say, you know what, I just saw, and because I know for sure they won't see it.
Yeah.
I know like the beginning when you first came back to the island, back then the persons ever had to pay in order to come, but some people were so comfortable in coming to you, even though they had to pay in order to come. How did you get to the how can I word this question? How did you get to the point where there was a kind of agreement that persons can?
A lot of nagging, I can tell you that. I nagged a lot, and thanks to a lot of people here on the island, they also complained about it. Yeah, it wasn't really making any sense actually, because we're such a small island, and right now the big struggle is to get professional people on the island. People don't want to work here because the island is small. So it's very difficult to get people here. So the fact that I was already here with all the works in place and I was not able to work, that was very puzzling to a lot of people, even to me, even though I had my issues with the system, which I'm not going to go into today. But even then, despite all of that, I was like, okay, that's a luxury position to, it's like being on a small island with only one coconut tree, and you start playing football with the coconuts.
Yes.
You know, I didn't really understand that point of view. So it was more of, for me, I felt it was more like a personal thing. It didn't make any sense to have a professional on an island who has a lot of skills and experience, and the need is there. But for some reason, the patients were not important enough. That's the only way I can conclude.
Yeah.
That the patients were not important enough to make use of my service. So at the end of the day, someone decided to listen, and thinking this looks, actually, I think it looked really bad at the end of the day. So it was like, okay, guys, we can't sell this anymore.
What's the reason? And
People are going to start asking even more questions.
Yeah.
And then the real story will come out.
Yeah.
And then it looks bad on everybody.
Yeah.
So even though deep down inside I would like to tell that story one day, but I will tell it in a different setting.
One day when you're better prepared.
Because it is a juicy story, I can tell you that.
Yeah.
But we're here for all the juices as well, too. You can lay it out here.
It all happened on Let's Talk. What is the name of the program? Talk.
The talk.
The talk.
The talk.
Yeah.
The talk. Time
Yeah.
to talk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you the basics. The basics were, when I moved to St. Martin, I started with a colleague from the Netherlands, and we both started at the same time. And there's a thing called expat application that applies to all these islands. If you're a professional and you have an expertise that is not on the island, that the governments give you some kind of a tax depreciation.
Okay.
So we both applied for that, and it was both approved. But in my case, they decided they're not going to pay for it. So I could have, of course, just roll over and thinking, Courtar, just a small thing.
Yeah.
But it just irritates. I just don't like injustice. Not for myself, but not for anybody.
Yeah.
So I went into talks, me trying to be the reasonable person, go into talks and asking, so what is going to happen? And they keep running and beating around the bush. And then the person who was responsible for doing this, they left. And then a second person come and they were like, I'm just only an interim, so I'm not going to deal with it. And then the third person come and said, oh, I'm also. So
Wow.
before you know it, 5 years passed.
Wow.
And then they got a fixed person. And unfortunately, that person had to deal with it because I was impatient.
Yeah.
So we had a conversation and I said, listen, this thing is spending and you guys are basically withholding a good portion of my salary.
Yeah.
Oh, don't worry, we're going to look into it. So they did look into it. And at the end of the day, they said, well, we did look into it. And meanwhile, it has accumulated somewhat. So that's a lot of money.
Which turned him better in your favor in the end.
So they decided, no, we're not going to pay you. So basically, he decided he's not going to pay me my full salary.
Still.
Yeah, and I said, what? After all this talking,
Yeah.
and he literally said to me, well, if you want it, you'll have to take me to court for it. You have to fight me for it.
Wow.
So that is the basis of the problem.
That is really
I took
injustice.
him up on his dare.
Yeah.
I took him to court.
Yeah.
And that's where the bad blood was.
And you won?
Yes, I did.
Yeah.
And it was not even about the winning. It was about the principle of the
the whole
situation.
thing. Yeah.
And that got me into trouble.
Yeah.
I can tell you. Yeah, that is the main thing that got me into trouble because this person knew some people who knew some people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they were.
So they are well connected.
They were well connected,
Yeah.
and he said literally like this: he's going to destroy me.
Wow.
Literally. Yeah.
Yeah, so there was a lot in the background going on. So everybody was wondering why she's not working. And I didn't want to go out there and tell the story at the time because I myself was, I would say, boggled by it and processing it myself and trying to understand what is going on. Because in the beginning, I didn't think it was because of that.
Yeah.
And it's not only because of that. There's a lot of other things.
And until now, you found out what the reason was for yourself?
Yeah, for myself, I found out what the reason is you cannot make it a nice story. It's not a pretty story.
Oh.
There was a lot of injustice going on and pettiness as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that is basically the main story. And that's why something like this can escalate to this magnitude. And then once it took a life of its own, if people used to come up to me and said, oh, you're Dr. Courtar. Oh, you're Dr. Courtar. I said,
your name is boy. Your name is being mentioned.
yeah, but it was very funny to have people we've never seen in their life
know you.
Not from Stacia, know your name.
Yeah.
But even recently, I was told that my name already causes some hairs to rise. So, which is a pity. I'm not such a bad person.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I'm not a bad person at all, actually.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Do you think race has anything to play with that? Because you came from Holland, and not sure if your friend was of a different race or
My colleague?
yeah.
No, my colleague was Dutch, yeah.
Yeah.
If I think race, well, at the time, yes. Later on, I don't think it mattered anymore. But at the time, I think it did play a role.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How did you navigate through that?
Well, it is what it is, honestly speaking. I've encountered racism my whole life. Whether it was here or in other countries.
Yeah.
I can't change people.
Yeah.
So I told myself, don't get stressed about it. It's not going to... My mother always used to tell me, the only thing that's going to stop you between you and your goals is you.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Yep.
Yeah. So
That
that's
is a
the way I live.
point for reflection.
Yeah. So I don't really. I mean, it is like I said. It is the way it is.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, I'm happy that you decide to come, Stacia, and to provide this service to us.
I love
you
it
know?
here, actually. Statia is a place to love and to hate at the same time and when I hate it, it's because of the petty stuff.
Yeah,
But I tell myself, don't complain because it's just pettiness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But generally speaking, I love it really here.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful island. I wish we would love it more. Keep it clean. Be nicer to one another. When I left Statia, everybody used to greet one another on the street, and that's getting less and less, which is a pity.
yeah. We're so close, and sorry. Go ahead.
Do you think that's a generational thing, or do you think it's just?
I don't know where it come from. In the beginning, people thought, okay, that's what they do in big countries, so make us feel like we're a big country now, so we don't say good morning anymore. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I think it's a special place, this island. I would be happy to see people also consider it also special because it is, and I just hope people on Statia realize how special we are. Yeah. I feel privileged to be here. I love it. I can say.
What do you like?
About
What do you
Statia?
love, I should say, about
The
Stacia?
pureness. People are still in a way have a certain innocence. And it's nice to be walking on the street and somebody will shout to you, "Doc, I love you." I mean, you don't experience that anywhere else.
Yeah.
So that's nice. That these things can happen.
Yeah.
Or if people are always willing to help, that's really nice. When something bad happens, you get scared and think, how many people are like this? But it's just, the bad stuff is only the minimum. It's just a small, one bad apple
Yeah.
bunch.
So you will consider yourself like you do get support from the community.
Yes, very much. Very
That's
much.
really good to hear.
And that's a nice feeling.
Yeah.
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 Even though I'm a very, you wouldn't think so, but I am an introvert person in a sense.
That's me right here.
I kind of squint in my eye.
No, but seriously,
Yeah.
I usually people always ask me, "You still work on this island?" Because I don't really go out much.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
And I try to avoid crowds. You wouldn't. But I'm really shy, honestly speaking.
So I guess you make your moments more intentional with who you meet, because you say you don't really go out often.
Yeah, I have so much home to do. That's the thing. I work a lot. I didn't expect I'd be working so much on stage. I must admit, I work a lot.
Yeah.
And then the time that is left, I love gardening. So I like to eat what I grow.
Yeah.
I wish when I came to Statia, I hardly worked. I was very stressed out about that situation because this was the first for me, not working and not having a job,
Yeah.
not having an income. So I used to wake up early in the morning, like 4:00, and walk to the bay with my dogs. And I used to cry sometimes and tell myself, why did I come here in the first place? But by the time I reach in the bend on the bay and I see the water, a smile will come to my face and it will just make
It relaxes
everything
you.
good again.
Yeah.
Like I'm happy to be here.
Nice.
So, but anyway, I hardly worked. So I did a lot of planting and gardening.
In that time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm starting to benefit now.
So you have how is your garden? Like you have a greenhouse, you have a
I have an unfinished greenhouse, but I focus more on big trees.
Oh,
So
big.
I plant a lot of trees. Yeah, I have a lot of trees,
So those are fruit trees.
fruit trees. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, in the front of the house, I have like flowery stuff.
Yeah.
But in the back,
Beautiful.
I have a lot of fruit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
I've been planting since I came here in December 2017. And you can say I hit the ground running. I started planting right away.
That's nice. Yeah. I want to go back into like women's health. I've seen a lot of posts lately about PCOS. What is that?
PCOS is an acronym for polycystic ovary syndrome. So basically, it's a hormonal disbalance, I would call it. So, in a nutshell, your body produces too much hormones, too much female hormones, which
Too much female hormones.
yeah, too much female hormones. And
Interesting.
yeah. Okay. First of all, you produce too much female hormones. Your body cannot deal with it. So there's this process what we call aromatization, where it turns it into male hormones, and to get rid of part of the female hormones. But the high level of male hormone causes also complications in a female body.
Yeah.
So some women will get darkening of the facial area where you start to grow a beard. Yeah, this cycle, it blocks your menstrual cycle.
Yeah.
You have the tendency to gain weight, which makes the situation even worse. And you have a higher risk of developing diabetes, hypertension.
Is there a way that can be prevented?
I don't know if it can be prevented, but I can tell you I've seen it more now than when I started studying. And a lot of it is environmental. So it's partly genetic. You know, some people say they have big bones, and as an explanation why they're big, but that's like a small amount of people. And with the PCOS, is the same thing. I always explain to my patient why they should stay away from sugar, especially when you have the tendency to get PCOS.
Yeah.
So I always tell them like this: if you eat a lot of sweets, your blood sugar rises. Your body considers sugar as poison, so it's going to produce insulin to bring down that blood sugar and pack it into your cells.
Yeah.
But insulin is also a growth hormone. So it's going to stimulate your ovaries to produce even more hormones. So then you start with a cycle, and when you gain the weight, you store more hormones in your fat tissue. So you have a lot going on when it comes down to hormones.
Yeah.
So that's a good example of the healthcare on Stacia, that prevention is important.
Yeah.
Education is important.
Yeah.
Health awareness is important, because a woman can basically get rid of most of her symptoms if she's aware that if she have a balanced nutrition, doing exercises and eliminating certain processed stuff from her diet, that she can reverse a lot of her symptoms as well.
Yeah.
And actually, because it affects a lot of women, and also prevents you from getting, if you do not menstruate, you do not ovulate, so you cannot get pregnant.
Yeah. Does that have like a age span? PCOS.
Well, as long as your cycle is active, you can have PCOS. So from your first period until you go into menopause.
Oh, that's so.
I know.
A teenager also can.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting.
How often should someone get checked? Regularly.
You know, that's an interesting question. I'll tell you why. In the Dutch system, we don't have checkups.
Oh.
No, they don't do checkups. You have to be sick to see a doctor.
Only when needed.
Yeah, only when you're sick. Only on a need basis.
Then that ain't prevent.
No, of course, then we're not catering for prevention. The American system is different. You can do checkups every year, and then in the Dutch system, we have certain diseases that we try to prevent by screening.
Yeah.
But as a whole screening program existing for example, cervical cancer, breast cancer, bowel cancer, and they're more or less contemplating whether or not they should do prostate cancer. But these are specific things. But a checkup and to see if there's anything going on, the system does not cater to that. So the funny thing is, when I worked in St. Martin, and my Dutch colleague had all these patients saying that they're coming for their checkup. He was like, "What is this nonsense with a checkup?" But if you're raised on this side, I always say up the river, you will know what a checkup is.
Yeah.
You don't have to be sick to do a checkup.
So I guess you're saying that it depends on how you feel when you feel it's needed to have a checkup.
Yeah, I as a woman, we have a lot of things are already taken care of. So we have the cervical cancer screening, where if you enlist, I always encourage women to enlist, because it's a national screening program that keeps a database. And with cervical cancer, prevention is key. You can really rule out cervical cancer by screening regularly. The disadvantage of screening is that you have a lot more going on. So you screen, you find a result that probably means nothing, but because it's not normal, you have to follow up on it, and people get nervous.
Yeah.
Then you have to do a biopsy, and then the biopsy says nothing, and then they say repeat it. So you end up in this, what I call this, we call it a mole, in this mill, this medical mill, that can be very stressful for some people. So it has its advantages and disadvantages.
For someone who's young right now watching this, and in future they would like to have children, what is the ideal time you would say would be a good time to have children?
Not when you're a teenager, because you have a high risk of a lot of complications. So, and also not when you just met someone. I know this may sound strange, but sometimes people got to get used to one another, not only mentally, but also physically. There's one theory that preeclampsia is caused also by a kind of allergic reaction of the female body against the male DNA. Some universities have explored that several times. And they came up with some very interesting theories. I don't think it falls within the scope of this program to mention these theories.
It's fine.
But,
because you also educating people who maybe...
we see it mostly in the first pregnancy. But when you look at these pregnancies, there has been a difference between women who have just met their partner and women who are together with this person for a long time. So women who just met their partner and get pregnant fast, it's like almost like your body has not adapted to that DNA.
Oh.
Yeah. So it's a kind of an allergic reaction. That's one of the theories of preeclampsia.
Yeah. Interesting. Very interesting.
Yeah. And for what is... I don't want to say...
I would advise to make sure you're healthy. If you're not ready for parenthood, you need to protect yourself from pregnancy. And I know we have abortions on the island, but a lot of people underestimate the effect, the psychological and physical effect of abortions. And it's not that you just like you're going to the toilet and you get rid of something. It doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
It does have a lasting impact on women. So my advice would be the ideal moment is when you're physically, mentally, financially ready. And of course, it's never ideal. How many people come to my clinic pregnant and they're like, oh gosh, and I'm like, don't panic. We can work this out. What is ideal? What is ideal for one is not ideal for the next. But there are some women who I advise not to get pregnant in their current situation. For example, women with a very high body mass index. Or I will advise them the risk of complications.
You mean as obese?
Obese. Okay. Yeah. To try to lose some weight first.
Yeah. Yeah.
I have a question. I mean, it might sound strange coming from a man, but is there such a thing as a biological clock? Like
for men?
For women, like is there a certain point that you could say, okay, hey, don't get pregnant after this specific age? Because women a lot of times they talk about it, or they say like, okay, I want to be pregnant by 30. I want to be pregnant by this.
Yeah, I hear a lot of women here say that as well. They want to be pregnant by 30.
Yeah,
after 30, 30, I'm done. And I'm like, what's with this 30 thing?
Yeah.
Is there anything to it, or
no? Not that I'm aware of. It depends on how healthy you are.
Okay.
I mean, of course, the older you get, there are some genetical risks involved.
Yeah.
That the chances are, but it's gonna happen. The chances are that larger that you can get a baby with a chromosome abnormality.
Yeah.
But we can test for that as well. Yeah. No, for me, there's no age. Honestly speaking, I think people here limit themselves too much. I worked in places where we had patients in their 50s and they will do...
like Janet Jackson?
Yeah, but I mean, if you're physically able, I think you should go for it. And you still want it, why not?
Yeah.
I mean, you need to be aware of the risk and you need good monitoring.
And once you're healthy,
But I find people should not limit themselves.
I like the response, honestly.
Because
Yeah.
you see it, I just asked him because you see it so much. Well, some women they say, "Oh,
I know,
4:30. If I don't do 4:30, I can't do it again." So
But
I just
why?
think about-
Yeah. No, it's always if you're healthy. Just I don't see the issue.
There's different ways people now can birth. I've seen different ways people are exploring. I think now, I don't know the terms, but maybe you can fill in for that, where they have like where they put the man semen and the woman together, and then the
Fertility. You're talking about a fertility, getting conception. So you have getting pregnant.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Like fertility treatments.
Yes, I know that part, but not that one where the baby is not going inside of the mother, but it's going into a. Is that possible?
You mean like
or is that
surrogate? Or you talking about something?
I know surrogate.
Surrogates are possible. What if these baby pods? I don't think that's
Yes, I saw something like that. Is that real?
Nothing surprises me anymore. But normally
wanted to know.
when they show you things like this, somebody's working on it. But to my knowledge,
Yes.
it's not possible.
Yes, I saw some.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one, baby pods, where you saw them and you can come and visit and see how far and all of those things. I don't know.
Yeah, listen, they did it with a goat, with a sheep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, there was a sheep that was developed outside in an artificial womb.
Mm-hmm.
Dolly was her name. But she died very young of arthritis, of actually the symptoms of aging
Oh,
shortly after.
Yeah.
So she didn't the experiment, the baby didn't. So and what it can do with animals, it can do with humans. But so far I'm aware it's not done with humans, but a lot of things are not allowed. It doesn't mean that it's not done.
yeah. What do you think about that? If thinking about the future,
That having babies in pods,
yeah,
if it was possible, if I would be for it,
yes,
why? No, I won't be for it. I think the world is already overpopulated. So there is a natural selection already taking place, and that's nature. I think we really need to understand what you're doing. If you want to fantasize in that direction, you need to understand really what you're doing. We have so much difficulty already understanding each other and understanding this planet that we live on. So I think if you're going to cross a border, it's an experiment. You're stepping into the unknown.
yeah. When I saw it, I'm like, what? The connection
I mean, for people who can't have
and
children, it sounds like an ideal.
for them, yeah,
It sounds like an ideal solution, but for now, so far I'm aware that's fantasy.
yeah,
And maybe in my lifetime it will.
yeah. And
happen.
with the way technology and everything advancing right now, what your thoughts are on abortion?
Me personally, or generally speaking.
Generally speaking, and you personally, both.
Well, I am not pro-abortion, but I respect people who do it. I always tell patients like this: it's not about me. It's about me helping you making the right choice, and a choice that you're comfortable with and you can live with.
Yeah,
And then my job is to make sure that it's done in a professional manner, that you don't get any complications. But I also have to warn you or inform you about the pros and the contras. A lot has changed when it comes down to abortion nowadays. In the past, for abortion, you had to be referred to a specialist, and then you had 5 days thinking time. All of that have changed.
yeah,
You can literally get it on demand. And in the States, for example, they're even advocating to order the abortion pill online.
yeah.
You know,
I know I asked you about the birth rate, but what about the abortion rate? Is there
abortions are
data
high on
on that?
Statia. Yeah. That's why I say if people are not willing to be a parent, then they need to start talking about contraception. We have a high rate in abortions on the island, average around between 30 and 40 per year of the ones that I know about.
Yeah.
We're not talking about the shame ones that leave the island
Yeah,
in secret, because now we're more better connected. It's a lot easier to jump on a plane or a boat and go somewhere else and keep it a secret.
Wow.
Yeah, I can imagine that.
Oh, it's a lot though.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
It is really a lot. And when you think about, for example, an island like Sabo, it has a half of our population. They have maximum 5 a year.
Okay.
Just to bring it into perspective
Yeah.
for us to know what's going on.
Yeah.
On the island. Yeah.
That's good. I mean, that's good to know in perspective.
Well, I was shocked. Honestly speaking, I was shocked. It has to do with the way we look at abortions as well. A lot of people don't see it as a big deal.
Yeah.
Until they're in it themselves. And then they realize that it is a deal.
Are there risk factors with abortion?
Yeah, for sure. If all goes well, there's no risk. Because abortions are done here on a very early stage on the island. Anything further will be referred off island to Bonaire. So you can have a late abortion as well.
How late?
24 weeks. 22 weeks, sorry.
How much is that in months, really?
Well, people will say 5 months.
Oh.
So you already have a bump.
You have a whole baby.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So legally you can go until there. But it does have emotional and psychological effect on the mother. So I always try to explain to people, if you're not ready, try to prevent. Yeah. If you're not, I mean, accidents.
Because in a moment, yeah.
Yeah.
It brings me to a question. Maybe not the abortion, but the morning after pill.
The what? The morning after pill.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can use that as well.
But does it have does it
Is there a maximum amount?
something?
No. No. I mean, it's hormones. I think we should have more awareness about how to. I think they call it here Plan B.
Yeah.
You can buy it over the counter.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you don't need to see a doctor. You don't need to get a prescription. So that's good. It's more easier accessible. It's irrespective what people think about it. I do believe in personal choice, that you should let someone determine their own choices, as long as you feel that they are able to understand the consequences.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about children. I'm talking about grown. Because we don't have so much what was surprising, we don't have much teenage pregnancies on the island.
Okay.
Yeah. So I hope we're doing a good job with informing, or that these are the ones that
Or
Abortion.
Yeah.
or jumping on a
The
plane
rates.
or yeah.
and that sometimes is unknown, of course.
That is unknown.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what people need to take action for their own. I mean, I can imagine you have an accident and you get pregnant, but these are things that can be prevented.
Yeah.
If you're going to engage in sexual intercourse and you don't want to be a mother or a father, because every time we put a responsibility most of the time on the girl, you need to have some kind of a prevention method.
Yeah.
I mean, it goes hand in hand. You can't say you don't want to be a parent, but you don't want to use any protection.
Yeah.
But you also don't want a child. So what is it?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Sometimes it'll say when women use birth control over a long period of time, I've heard that it does have a effect on the female body.
On the fertility?
Yeah.
There's a small group of women I've seen that in, but generally speaking, not. I see that in a small group of women. Not so much.
I know some women also. So some women that say, like, for example, it has, I guess, put on a lot of weight on them. So maybe sometimes they deter from it because maybe it has put on too much weight, or it has make them bloated or something like that.
It makes it. Some people will retain more fluid, yes, but that doesn't explain the weight gain I see here. That's not fluid anymore. That's gaining from letting yourself go.
Yeah.
Some people would say it does open their appetite.
Yeah.
I think we just need to be more self-aware.
Yeah.
Take more responsibility. And we have the tendency to look for, I wouldn't call it excuses, but explanation outside ourselves. But I think people, generally speaking, it's important for people to realize you're responsible for yourself. Nobody else is going to do it for you.
Yeah.
And if you refuse to acknowledge that, you're going to end up in problems. There's nobody waiting at a medical center to save you. They can assist you and give you advice how you can improve your situation, but they're not going to be running behind you to check to see what you eat and if you're still drinking. And that's your own responsibility. And if you cannot do it on your own, meanwhile, we have also help for that on the island.
Yeah.
The mental health is responsible for any kind of addiction, whether it's food, alcohol, drugs, smoking, sex, any kind of addiction, gambling that you may have. You can seek help for this.
Yeah.
And people just need to do what they need to do. I mean, I know it's a small society and people are always gossiping about one another, but at the end of the day, it's your life. You need to do what you need to do for yourself.
Exactly.
I like in the direction you're diving into right now. You mentioned MHC. What do you think about mental health?
Yeah, I think we need more mental health support on the island because in the past, we have the history of mental health is only for the crazy person. I can tell you that when I moved to Europe, I had a lot of questions. So I myself went to see a psychologist for 6. I mean, I was a curious mind. So I just wanted to dive into myself and understand how things work and see how I feel about a lot of different things. And I was hoping a psychologist will help me to put things into perspective. And I was fortunate to have a good psychologist. But after 6 months, he said, you don't need to come anymore.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean, it is reserved for people who really have issues to sort out.
Yeah.
But it does help. It does help to, if you're struggling with any doubts or doubting about yourself, it's okay to talk about it. We're human beings and we're not machines. We do have emotions.
Yeah.
And some people have insecurities for whatever reasons. And if you feel that you're not able to handle it yourself, there's absolutely nothing. If your leg is broken, you also go to the doctor.
Yeah.
So if your mind or your heart and your emotions are not functioning well, there are specialists who are trained how to help you get it back on track as well. Why not using it, especially since you have it on the island available?
We could be probably here talking all night, honestly. Because
no, I won't be here all night.
Yeah.
Questions will just go and go and go.
Yeah.
But
I had,
before we end this episode, is there a specific message you would like to leave for the audience?
Yeah, the only thing, I think I've repeated myself several times, but I think prevention is key on Statia. There's a lot we can do for ourselves.
Yeah.
And I would really like to encourage everyone to take care of themselves physically, mentally, and spiritually. And there's so much available nowadays that in my time growing up and our parents was not available. And we have a lot more resources on the island. We also have the World Wide Web where you can educate yourself. So I would really like to see people being more proactive when it comes down to their health. So in a little bit goes a long way.
Yeah.
You know, if you're drinking 5 beers a day, drink 1.
Yeah.
You know, and if you're using 2 tablespoons of sugar, take a teaspoon. You know, small steps makes a big difference.
And you also have to prepare your mind for it too.
Yeah, just do it. Just do it. First, I always say that, I even put it once on Facebook. If you have cravings, even if you have to cry, just cry. It's okay. It's better. It's better to cry than kill yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. Just do it like Nike. Yeah. Is there anything you say we didn't touch on that you feel we could ask?
About health?
In everything. Any angle, yeah. For the community. That you feel like, hey, this is really something before we officially close off.
Yeah. Talking about women, domestic abuse.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's good.
You know, domestic abuse is something that needs a little bit more attention. It's almost like it's accepted in the society, which is sad. especially sad for the women and children who suffer from this, and also men. Some men also suffer from domestic abuse, and also the rights of the child protection. Fathers who don't take care of their children, who don't even pay to help raise their children. We do have a responsibility to ourselves, but also to the children that we bring forth. And we shouldn't take it for granted that they're just going to raise themselves and become good human beings. We also have a contribution in that. So I think for such a small island, this can be such a beautiful place, not only to see, but also to live in. We have work to do.
Yeah.
We can do much better than we're doing now. I know that for sure, because we were better in the past.
Yeah.
So we can get there again. We just need to be willing. And everybody is a community effort.
Yeah.
One person can't do it. I can preach as much as I want, but it's going to fall on deaf ears if only me is talking about it. We needed to do it. You need to see it also in schools. And I'm happy to see that since I moved to Statia, I'm here now almost 8 years.
Yeah.
I've seen progress. I've seen more and more people walking. When I came, there were hardly people walking. Now I see so many people walking. So that's so good.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah.
Yeah. That's good.
Yeah, that's nice.
I like that you bring that up because honestly, that is something that I know Irena is really pushing in the social domain department, really about the protection code and domestic violence. So thank you for bringing that up and touching on that.
Yeah, that's the only thing that I didn't talk much about, and I'm not an expert on that area, but I do see that it needs attention.
Yeah.
Thank you for accepting the invite, and it was a very interesting episode. I learned a lot myself.
Yes.
And like I say here on the talk, jacket imagery, capture the moment, watch it forever. See you guys in the next episode. Bless.